Well, greetings and salutations, Series 7 test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru, aka Dean Tenney, coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas with another explication request. Test prep vendors drive me nuts on this kind of a question. It just, you know, you're not going to see it on your Series 7, but I'll go over with it. Maybe I'll put it into the 4 and 9 playlist. So an investor writing an XYZ October 50 put could cover that put. What that means is, as a margin clerk, I'm not going to ask you to come up with 20% of the current market value, less any out of the money amount, plus the current premium. That is the margin requirement to write either a naked call or a naked put. Naked uncovered is the opposite, right? So when we say in this example covered, what we're saying is under what circumstances the margin department not going to make you deposit the money. So are you covered? The easiest way to cover this is I look in your account and there's $5,000. So as a margin clerk, I say, okay, you have $5,000. You have cash equal to the aggregate exercise price. So if somebody sticks it to you at 50, I know you can pay. By the way, this part is very testable to know contract specifications. In other words, you shouldn't be struggling that is an obligation to buy the stock at 50. So $5,000 would work. I look in your account and I say, okay, well, do you have a choice? Do you offset your obligation to buy with a choice to sell? And so when I say that, I mean, if somebody sticks it to you at 50, can you stick it to the next guy at a higher strike, 55, 60? Because that means ultimately it would be profitable if this thing gets exercised. So I'm not worried that somebody sticking it to you at 50 if you have a choice to sell at a higher price. Now, the other thing I'm going to be looking at as a margin clerk is, do you also have, again, the expiration that matches or is longer? Because, for example, if you say, well, Dean, I have a choice to sell XYZ at 55, I said, well, that looks good, but it's September. And I said, well, that doesn't work, because in September, when it expires, that leaves you another month exposed. So it would have to be an obligation, offset this obligation with a choice to buy at a higher, or choice to sell at a higher price, a higher strike put with either the same expiration or longer. That would work. This is one of my pet peeves. You're short the stock. Now, you got a bigger problem there. As a margin clerk, I'm not worried about this short put. I'm certainly worried about the short stock, because you're still exposed to unlimited risk. But I say, okay, well, if you're short the stock and somebody sticks it to you at 50, you're going to use it to cover your short position. So in all those circumstances, you have a cash equal to the aggregate exercise price. You have a long put with a choice to sell at a higher price with the same or greater expiration, or you're short the stock. Again, I'm only doing this by request. I think all test vendors drive me nuts on this kind of a question. And remember, covered means if you don't have those three things, then I'm going to ask you, and again, this is not testable, but if you don't have any one of those three things, I'm going to ask you for 20% of the market value. I'm going to let you slide for the out of the money amount. I'm going to subtract that from that number, because if it's out of the money, it doesn't look like somebody's going to stick it to you. Plus, you got to leave the current premium in there. All right, so let's look at the reveal here on this question. So here, choice A is what this test taker answered. And the reason choice A doesn't work is because it is a choice to sell at a higher price, right? However, it's July expiration. And that would leave you hanging, right? Because you'd have a July expiration and you still are hanging out there exposed till October. So that's why A is not an appropriate answer. B, you have an XYY October 60 put. That doesn't work. You can't offset your obligation to buy at 50 with a choice to sell some entirely different stock. So that's why B doesn't work. C, well, that doesn't work because, again, you have an obligation to buy at 50. And I mean, it's kind of cool that you can stick it to somebody at 45. That, by the way, would be a credit put spread. And the margin requirement for that would be the difference in the strikes. and then I'd make it leave the current premium in there. Again, if you ever join me for a 4 or 9 class, that becomes part of what we need to talk about, but not on a 7. That's why I get so frustrated with test prep vendors. Even my favorite vendor, this I think is a Kaplan question, when they torment you with this idea on uncovered puts. It's just ridiculous. The more likely question about uncovered puts is, why do you do it? One great reason to write a put is to get stock at less than the current market price. If you're already willing to buy XYZ for 50 or lower, why not sell that put? Selling a put is an alternative to a limit order. Let's look at choice D. So choice D is the correct answer, because here, if somebody sticks it to me, so I'm a margin clerk, I'm looking at your account, and I say, okay, well, if somebody sticks it to you at 50, you're the put E at 50, you're the put at 55. So again, I got no worries about you there, because that would be a $500 profit less your debit. The margin there would be the debit, whatever it is that you need to pay for that spread. So anyways, I'm honoring the explication request. I take heat for honoring explication requests that may lead to more confusion and are very, very, very low probability you're ever going to encounter this on the test. But that's the deal. So I hope you found this helpful. I'll probably put it in the 4 and 9 playlist as well. And just by way of review, covered and uncovered in this circumstance and context is referring to margin. Am I going to make you come up with 20% of the market value of the stock? In this case, I don't know where the market value is, but I'll just give you another real quick example. I want to short an Apple, let's say, what is this, December, June 180 put. So, I have an obligation to buy 100 shares of Apple at 180. So that's $18,000. That would work. I got cash equal to the aggregate exercise price. What else would work? I have a choice to sell Apple at a higher strike at the same expiration or longer. Somebody sticks it to me, I stick it to the next guy, and it's profitable doing so. What else would work? I'm a short the Apple, and when I get exercise, I'm using it to cover my short position. If not, I'm going to have to come up with 20% of the current market value. So 20% of 18 grand, that would be my margin requirement. What is that, $3,600? I would get to subtract, Apple's at 182, so I get to subtract 200 from that, and then I have to leave the current premium in. Maintenance is going to be 10% of the current market value and whatever the current premium is. Again, more 4 and 9 than it is 7. However, I am honoring the explication request. So remember, inch by inch, Series 7's a cinch. Yard by yard is Series 7 is hard. And I'll see you for the next explication request.